Perfect. So today we're with Tosca Keppler. Thank you for joining us, Tosca. Tosca, your background is in nutrition, like you're Bachelor in Science, you've functional nutrition, a lot behind you. You're also a yoga teacher, qigong, and a life coach.
Indeed.
So a vast amount of knowledge behind you, and thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you so much for
to
having
talk
me.
to us. I'm really excited about this because especially obviously the yoga and the qigong because I teach it, but I'm really interested in the nutrition because I feel for me it's the one side in everything that I do that I let myself down because I'm a very sweet tooth and you know what you should be doing. So I really find the whole nutrition thing is really important. So if you don't mind just talking us through how you studied for it and we'll take it from there, if that suits.
Perfect. So I was in the States, in Reno, Nevada.
Lovely.
And I moved there. I actually grew up in South Africa, but I moved there when I was 16 and I went to school there. I got my, like you say, Bachelor of Science in Nutrition and Dietetics. And then I went on, that qualified me to take the exam to be a nutritionist in the States. To be an RD, which is the holy grail of nutrition, you'd have to do like a 9-month residency at a hospital, and I made it like 3 months out of that, and I was like, get me out of here. I just wasn't cut out for it. Hospitals are I admire people who can work in hospitals. It was just, I don't know, I would come home extremely sad just to see people, you know, struggling so much. So anyways, I figured out that I wanted to be this end of the hospital. So I wanted to kind of focus on kind of protecting health, nutrition to protect health, rather than nutrition to, you know, help you once you've been diagnosed.
Okay, so you're kind of looking at the preventative side.
Exactly.
More so.
Exactly. And in fact, that's why I came to Ireland and I saw there was a master's in health promotion, and like some of the leaders in the world were working were the faculty of the University of Galway. They're kind of like heroes in the health promotion world. And I actually got my master's in health promotion. Because I suppose, and you can stop me whenever I'm getting boring, but what I was finding with my clients in the community in the States is that, just like you said, everybody like knows what they need to do, they know what they want to do, but our society is just such that, number one, it's too tempting to make poor nutritional decisions. I mean, they have the greatest minds in science working on textures and flavors, and so we don't stand a chance. Like we just don't. Yeah. So on that end of things, people were finding it hard, but also on the society level, like policy, and people want to eat naturally, but it's nearly impossible, particularly in the States. Like some housing associations don't even allow you to have your own garden, you know, in the States. So it's, So I would see, and so I was like, you know, this is really defeating. I feel so defeated. So I found that health promotion, it actually pulls up, you know, on a society level to try to create supportive environments where health and well-being are underpin all decisions across all of the government decision-making processes, so that, you know, the healthy choice is the easy choice, is what they say. And so creating these supportive environments so that you can make these good decisions. So I kind of looked at it from the client level, like in the weeds with the client, and then also from the bird's eye view level of like, how can we actually change society to try to make it easier to live like a more natural life. Because that's kind of what I focus on in the nutrition that I do, is how do we eat naturally, really. Like that's kind of, if there's one rule of nutrition, it's like, how naturally can you eat? And like I was telling you before earlier, like for me, nutrition is communication with your body. Like your body, how does your body know what season it is or what country it's in? You know, it's kind of convenient to eat bananas in Ireland in December, but what is that telling your body? Your body's like, where am I? What season is it? You know? So there's a mismatch there.
So I suppose that goes back to knowing that our brain and our guts are like 100,000 years old. So when we have 3 meals, like if we have a big meal, it stores it as fat because it thinks there's a famine coming. So we're basically working on the body as being the same as it was 200,000 years ago, but we're literally confusing it with our food.
absolutely confusing it, yeah. And I think the common misconception is that if you eat food, it is energy, but there's a whole bunch of biochemistry that happens in between you putting the food in your mouth and it being converted to energy. And if you don't have the vitamins and the minerals that need to convert it to energy, it's not, your body's not going to be able to, and it needs everything sequestered from the blood. It needs everything gone from the blood. So some of it, you know, the toxins especially get stored in the fat. And so sometimes it's not necessarily how much you eat. There can be hormonal issues there in terms of weight gain as well, because again, the body doesn't have the vitamins and the minerals to convert the food that you're eating into.
So the macros and the micros are
that's it, exactly.
hugely important.
Yeah, the micros especially, yeah.
I suppose we're kind of ruled by the food pyramid.
Well, that's it, yeah.
Which is, you know, it depends.
Yeah, it's probably, I know,
Yeah.
it's probably another reason why I let my licensure expire, because basically if you're a nutritionist working under, I suppose in Ireland it would be Koru, and that you have to basically say, I abide by the food pyramid.
Yeah.
And I started to find myself anyways that the food pyramid is, again, not to get all conspiracy theory or anything like that, but it is based on research that we know that the research world and the funding of research and stuff isn't perfect.
No.
And it can be guided by
Who's paying you?
Yeah.
The wages, basically.
And, so, I mean, and again, I don't want to be conspiracy theorist, but I also don't want to be naive either.
Yes.
And I just found, and also not only that, but the research is, I mean, it takes forever. So you're always behind. So even like the cholesterol conversation, even now we do practices that are kind of a little bit behind from research, newer research. And when I say newer, even 10 years ago, research hasn't made it into textbooks yet. Okay, so I kind of think, and I also think sometimes we complicate matters, and we should be a little bit more intuitive with nutrition.
Yes.
We kind of hand over our autonomy, and there's a lot of fear mongering in nutrition as well.
And I think it's difficult too, like especially when you're in the TikTok world and the Instagram world. Like there's so much information out there, and it's all great stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's all conflicting and varying. Like I would look at, you know, if you want to build muscle, you got your protein and stuff, but then, you know, you shouldn't cut down on your carbs. But then if you're running half marathons, you need your carbs, so you need to carb up. So like it depends. I think it depends on what you're actually doing in life. As well. Absolutely.
Depends on what your goals are and what you're doing. And it also depends on your own personal body, you know, your biochemistry. You know, intermittent fasting is going to be great for some people, and for others it's a no-go. It just doesn't. So all of this kind of one-size-fits-all approach. And a lot of the influencers are kind of people who are sometimes, you know, genetically won the lottery or something like that. Yes. So a lot of things that work for them aren't necessarily going to work for the rest of us. Like, you know,
like even I find with the sports now, you know, for the carbing and stuff like that, which I would follow because like that makes sense, but doesn't necessarily mean that I might not need as much.
Yeah.
Or I could less, because you can complete a half marathon on very little.
Right.
Obviously, you get better performance if you do other stuff. So sometimes it can be quite confusing because you can listen to loads of people and go, oh, what do I do? What am I actually supposed to do?
Exactly, and that's why I ended up coming into life coaching, because I realized it's not a nutrition thing that is the battle for people. It's actually more of an inner thing, an intuition thing, and reclaiming our own autonomy, really, as humans that can actually figure things out themselves. We don't need a study to tell us what's best for us. We don't even need an expert like a nutritionist to tell us what's best for us. We actually can listen to our own bodies, and our bodies talk to us very clearly, but unfortunately we live in a society where when our body talks to us, we're like, oh, what disease do I have? Quickly take a painkiller, or quickly take this. Whereas we could actually just say, what is the story my body's trying to tell me right now, and try to figure it out. You know, so.
I think that's a very important point, because a lot of people go to the gym and they get, as soon as we get a pain on the left side, it's heart. And if we get a lump or we get anything else, it's cancer.
Right, of course.
And that's kind of where we are in the world now. Those two things are...
Fear, it's fear.
Instead of saying, oh, I was in the gym today, or I lifted something. Like maybe that, you know, we're not like logically trying to figure out what that could possibly be.
Exactly. Or we go straight, tell me Google, or tell me ChatGPT, like, you know,
Yeah.
instead of saying, look, be within yourself, you know, there is wisdom there. And again, of course, I wouldn't be saying it's never good to talk to somebody else, or an expert, or
absolutely,
people that have gone to school and all that, of course, and learn. I'm an obsessive scholar, an eternal scholar, so I love to learn. But really, we need to connect deeper. And I think you would agree, right, that when you're doing your qigong and even yoga, there's this really strange wisdom in the body.
Yes.
And there's this lovely, and what I find sometimes with especially moving meditation, and I don't want to sound cheesy or anything, but it is like this kind of feeling of coming home, like, to yourself. And it's a very strange sensation that happens, and just feeling like the weight of gravity, and you feel this calmness, this like humble knowing.
Yes.
And that I don't think a lot of people feel,
No.
or give themselves an opportunity to feel.
And I think especially the likes of yoga and the Tai Chi, we're teaching it for a physical reason, but the real reason that it does is that's the only time that people will actually connect to themselves, to feel, oh, where is my left foot? Where is my right foot? Where is my hip? So I think we're concentrating so more on get flexible, get strong, and we're going to bring chi, but what we're actually doing is telling yourself to listen, to feel your own body. And I think that's really what we're teaching people.
I could not agree more.
And until people have done that, people can't connect to themselves, because we're connected to whatever it is, the matrix, we're connected to everything else. But it's only when you stop that, because you're not on your phone, you're actually just listening to you going, oh, that's really what we're trying to teach people. Like, people will teach through meditation first, but like, if you've never sat down for 2 seconds, like, how can you sit down for 30 minutes and not think? Like, it's insane.
Exactly, I agree 100%. And I always think the moving meditation is always the best gateway to meditate. Because so many times when you say, oh, you teach yoga or whatever, people are like, oh, no, I can't meditate, I can't. But actually, if you really look at meditation, it's about just sitting and then observing, and what then happens. It's not even necessarily about stopping to think. You know, our brain thinks, you know, just like our nose smells, our ears hear. We can't get mad at our brain for thinking. But it's like, number one, can you watch yourself thinking?
Yes.
And, you know, number two, can you maybe even then start to understand something about the patterns of your thoughts, you know? What do you tend to, like, whenever I meditate, I think of myself in the third person sometimes, where I'm like, oh, she likes to make lists, doesn't she, when she's meditating? And it makes me realize something about myself, you know, which is, again, becoming connected to the own wisdom that's inside yourself, and kind of playing a role in it, rather than being swept into a current of just like, you know, how did it even get here? What's even going on? You know, we don't have this conscious connection to.
And I find with meditation as well, just while we're on that topic just for a minute, it's just like, a lot of people don't like being with themselves.
I know.
You know, for whatever reasons, things have happened. So to get someone to sit down and to go into all of their fears and demons that they're trying to not even think about, has to have the opposite effect on people who are maybe not mentally stable, or having PTSD. So I don't agree with the whole sit down and learn to meditate because you'll feel better. We're not looking at the person as a whole and what they're going through. Whereas the moving forms, at least you're just concentrating on, put your left foot here, put my right, and that's all you're doing. And that is kind of grounding you and sort of taking you inside to yourself without being fearful.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we are very frivolous about our, oh, you should meditate, or in modern terms, you'd say practice mindfulness, or that, because you're dead right. We are, you know, more than the pathology-based that our society is, you know, disease-looking, reactive that our society is, we also have this, so what do they call it? Like toxic positivity, or that, where everything is about transcendence and light, and you know, and so we feel so like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me if we ever have a negative thought, or we're ashamed. Christianity kind of made us think that too. Oh my gosh, I should feel so ashamed of all these thoughts. But I'm super into a gentleman named James Hillman in archetypal psychology, and he says that actually our pathologies, now we're shifting over to a different conversation, but actually our pathologies are kind of the soul's story. It speaks in kind of strange, distorted images and stuff. So we don't have to feel ashamed of these things that come up. We can actually just say, this is sort of the soul's story, you know?
Yeah.
And we don't need to transform it into light or improve ourselves all the time. We're obsessed with self-improvement and personal development and all that, whereas we can actually sit with ourselves and just get to know ourselves as well, the way we are.
It's okay.
Right now, that's okay.
It's
yeah.
cool. Yeah, and just bringing it back to back to nutrition. Like along those lines, then, when you were studying nutrition, did I find in that the stuff that we would have had hundreds of years ago, the normal plain stuff that we would have eaten, the grains, the oats, the fruits, is that more conducive to, that's what we're designed to?
Yeah, it's a really sad thing because our soils wouldn't be the same beautiful fertile soils that we would have had, and grains that we eat today are not sort of the same as the grains that we would have eaten in the past. I mean, in the past, well, you know, in ancient days especially, where we'd have like the whole seed that would have grown over the entire season, and we would grind it up ourselves and use it nearly immediately, and we would usually ferment it to a certain degree. Usually there were these ancient preparation or respect really for the grain, and so the grains that you'd be eating were full of this, they were a superfood, this gorgeous nutrition, and even especially if it's fermented, it's been digested a little bit, so it wouldn't give us all these problems with our digestion. Whereas nowadays we have to take a lot of those nutrients out of the flour that's ground down to a powder, because it goes rancid really fast. The vitamin E and the different types of nutrients there. Yeah, so they have to extract that out. And so what you're left with is just this powder. And a lot of times they even bleach it. And so the grains that we're eating now...
and is there a reason why that goes rancid very, very quickly?
Well, there are fats. Fats go bad, like lipid peroxidation. They're very unstable biochemical constituents. So yeah, it just goes, I think it's the vitamin E and just different parts of the grain itself that just do. They go, and fresh foods go rancid, like they go bad.
That's a mentor, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happens with them. So they make it to order almost, if you want to say it that, instead of having to have it so that it ships however many miles, sits on the shelf, comes to your house, has to sit on your shelf for months. You know, we're driven not by nutrient content, we are driven by shelf life. And those two are not, they're not a lot of times compatible. Yeah. So I suppose, yeah, if your question is that's the way we kind of...
should be eaten as natural as possible.
Absolutely.
From the source.
Exactly. That is the key, as much as possible. And there are little things that people can do to do that. You know, buying Irish vegetables, especially a lot of villages will have a farm nearby or something, you know, and so that, again, your body understands, like, okay, this is the environment we're in. These are the... you know, immune compounds I have to generate. This is what do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I was telling you as well, that in traditional herbalism, now obviously there's no like study for this, but they, you know, believe that the herbs can actually hold what you need, what the creatures of that environment need for the winter or for whatever season is coming up. Like it's all sort of, it works together, like evolution kind of, you could say.
Yeah.
That organisms and environment are like lock and key, and they both hold what each other like need.
Yeah, because we're symbiont beings to everything, really.
100%. Gaia, you know, we're all in an ecosystem. We all are, but humans, for our beautiful, miraculous gift that we were given, somehow we've pulled ourselves out of nature. Not only the way we eat and industrial revolution and all that, but even science kind of did that too, that pulled us into the observer role of nature instead of a participant in it. And to me, the participating, and so I suppose participating is an inconvenience, right? So our entire society is driven on convenience. Like, how do I, you know, I'm going to buy this sauce from Aldi or this pre-made this or whatever. It's all convenient. But what I think is that the inconvenience of growing your own tomatoes and cooking your own tomatoes, grinding your own grain, all that participation, the inconvenience is the connection to nature.
Yeah, and I think the inconvenience has only come about simply because now we have Netflix, and we have, years ago you didn't have that. So you just worked all day to get the work done so that you could eat, and then whatever in the evening. So I think that has a lot.
I know, because that's exactly it. I want to ask people, you know, okay, so you have all this convenient stuff all over or all around you. What are you doing with all this time that you've saved? You know, are you proud of the stuff that you're doing with all this time that you've saved and this disconnect, you know?
But also as well, if you look back at, going back to like growing your own stuff and things like that, now we have like health and safety.
Yeah.
Where I couldn't make something from my garden and sell it outside because I'm going to kill everyone, poison everyone. And I think there's a lot of that where this I suppose knowledge and information that was passed down from generations that everybody knew and everyone healthy, we kind of pushed that aside because, well, we haven't legislated that and it has to come in. So we kind of move from there, but we can eat this food because this is legislated and this has come from science. And so all the good stuff is kind of, and the knowledge being pushed aside.
It's so heartbreaking. It really,
and do you find that now from a nutritional point of view, where you've studied what the food can do and how it can help us, and can you see how the good stuff is being pushed? Or maybe being outpriced to people. Yeah,
exactly. As in, whatever is able to be mass produced and shipped to the most amount of people. So whatever products or whatever foods are best able to do that have come to the forefront. And then of course wherever there's a dollar to be made, that's where we'll kind of focus as well. And just using kind of marketing as well to push for certain types of food. And again, like I say, it's all about shelf life. It's not about nutrient quality. So whatever rises to the top and is legislated for is usually lobbied by people with money, I suppose, who are going to be providing these
an agenda to provide certain things.
That's a fact, it really is.
And it's sad because like Ireland, and everyone who's ever come, I'm sure you've seen it yourself when you arrived in Ireland, how like green and luscious it is.
Gorgeous, yeah.
Like for growing stuff like this, there probably isn't, apart maybe New Zealand, there's not too many countries on the planet that have what we have.
It's so true. And then to hear what's going on, like with, outsourcing our beef to Argentina, like what the heck?
We should be everyone should just be growing our own stuff.
I know. Exactly, and it can happen.
And it could happen, so it's a strange time. I think people are starting to go back a little bit. They're starting to grow more and...
Yeah, I do think you're right, and I do like to be optimistic for sure. I do. But I do think we need champions out there. You kind of really have to look for, like you say, your tribe. You really do. Like we have Clough Jordan, I think would be the closest place that's kind of permaculture, but a lot of people don't know about that way of generating food and stuff. Even the farms, I mean, remember old MacDonald had a farm, with a moo-moo here and a quack-quack there. We have such mono everything, mono cropping, and that's not the way nature is, and that's probably why we are having so many kind of like immune problems and that kind of thing. But, because that's not the way that nature works. It's just easy to create bulk.
Yeah.
So we kind of do have to take it back into our own hands somehow. I don't know who the leaders are or who the champions are, but
it goes back to Plato, like you are what you eat. So the nutrition is the key to everything. Apart from obviously stressed at work and stuff, but what you put in is really a lot to do with it, isn't it?
Exactly, and I think the connection to nutrition, the connection to the food, to me is almost a sacred connection. I mean, this is stuff you are putting into your mouth, you're bringing it into you. That's like a pretty intimate thing. So to me, the earth crisis is solved by people wanting to reclaim that sacred connection to the food that they're eating and cultivating, and even, like again, I was mentioning to you the mythology of connecting to the land and personifying the land. humans personify, so that they can love. And if we stop seeing mythology as like this stepping stone to science, to the really real way that the world, and rather that, wow, mythologies and stories of the land and connecting to the different landscapes, sacred sky, that this is actually, another branch of human knowing, of different cognitive modes of human knowing. It doesn't all have to be rational knowing.
No.
There can be this lovely, gorgeous storytelling and connection to the land and caring.
Yeah.
Because it just makes me so sad that we're the only beings that have compassion and that we can see, we can understand suffering and stuff. And we are the ones that have these horrific agricultural processes and these disconnect.
Yeah, and it's like science on one side, and now unfortunately we have not mythology, but we have religion. And there's two kind of definites on whatever side you're on, and the sort of in between where kind of, I would just say, like just normal open-minded thinking people who just think for themselves, or somewhere in between, kind of getting sandwiched between, you got to do this, so if you don't do this you're going to go to hell, and you're
right. And then the Christianity too, again, and I wouldn't be against anything, or I love actually talking about spirituality and religion and paganism and all that, I love it, but Christianity it pulled us out of earth and looking beyond and thanking God for everything, rather than necessarily thanking the land the way the pre-Christian world might have. And again, I'm not saying one's right or the other's wrong, but it really did pull us sort of out and beyond and looking up, rather than looking and connecting
like
with
a child will look at the sun and go, the sun's cool, where an adult will look at it and go, yeah, but that was put there by somebody else. Like they're not seeing it for what it is.
Exactly.
There's something behind it. So, but when you look at those, like even with science and spirituality and religion, like food has always been part of that culture, obviously, because we need it to survive.
Right.
So it's always been part of even the religious ceremonies, like the foods and the grains and the offerings. Like food is the number one thing on the earth, really. Now, obviously we need water within 3 days, but food is like the life and soul of everything, really.
Exactly, and the grain goddesses would have been the important, deities as well, and that. So no, absolutely, there's no getting around it. And hunting would have been really sacred, not only in terms of that you're respecting life, so you're looking face to face and respect, we're on equal ground here. It's not like we're corralling animals, which again, but anyways, but hunting would also be an initiation, for young people, that this moment that marks them moving, and we don't have that anymore. And so we have a lot of young adults that have never marked their
coming into adulthood.
Exactly,
and things like
our life events. Transitioning into different parts of our life cycle, they were also venerated as well. But yeah, you're dead right. All the major initiations and stuff were all around food, and especially in Ireland, like the Brehon laws and all that, they would all be around etiquette on, including food in terms of how. And
going back, just sticking with that, going back into the ancient time, grains would have been huge, because obviously bread and. They wouldn't have had much.
They wouldn't sometimes only eaten bread, yeah.
Like even cheese wouldn't have been a thing for a lot of people, possibly, unless you had your goats. But bread would always seem, going back to medieval time, was always a staple. Maybe apples.
Yes.
And then whatever meats then were killed. So that seemed to be kind of.
Absolutely, yeah. Bread. I mean, sometimes they wouldn't eat anything but bread for a long time. But like I say, it was different bread, definitely much different.
And is it because the grains, or is it because of the earth, that where they grow now? We couldn't grow the same grains, or the grains themselves changed over the centuries? Well,
there's a bit of that. There's definitely been sort of Monsanto kind of recombination of grains and stuff. But no, I think we can absolutely have really good soil and grow really good grain. It's just that, again, we would need to sort of buy the whole grain and mill it ourselves if we want to get that full profile, that full nutrient profile. And then, ferment it. I even do that with my oats. I have the oat groat, and I'll use my mortar and pestle to kind of break it up, and then put it with water and a dash of vinegar with the mother, so like apple cider vinegar, and leave it for a couple days, and it ferments nicely, and I don't get that nasty bloated feeling that I do if I eat rolled oats. I can't eat rolled oats.
So when you ferment it, then does it have like a kombucha effect on the gut? Is that what you're trying to do with it? Does it
in a way, I suppose, exactly. Yeah, it's number one, it's more digested, so it's easier for you to handle, but also exactly it promotes sort of healthy gut flora, healthy gut economy inside.
So like you go back thousands of years and they knew this?
Whether they knew it or not,
that.
but they were doing
But
it.
they
Knew it worked. And whether they knew the whole ins and outs of it, but they knew it worked anyways. And in some ways, I suppose they were forced into it too. But no, they would have known they needed to cultivate the grains and cook them in certain ways. I think they were a lot smarter than we give them credit for.
Yeah, because it makes you wonder, because like obviously there was like gluten-free and things like that. There's no way there's just a new disease.
Right.
Obviously that was happening thousands of years ago. And were these like sort of ways to combat that, or?
That's exactly probably it. I mean, I haven't looked into the actual historical record of how this would happen, but that is exactly what I would assume is how we figured many things out, even how we figured the medicinal properties of plants, and all these different things. There's even, really sophisticated things that they have figured out, and I guess it was just because they didn't have anything else to do other than cultivate their foods and understand what was happening when they ate the food. They were so connected to their own bodies, and they were able to see the patterns of what to eat and what not to eat, or how to prepare, and how to respect the different types of foods and that. And seeds do need to be respected. You know, they have anti-nutrients and stuff like that, so we do need to process them in, I guess I call them ancient ways, because that's exactly what's going on. They're transforming some of the anti-nutrients, the harmful stuff, into actually like a superfood, you know, actually really good nutrients.
And so then when you got to there, obviously you would do your nutrition first, I take it, and then your yoga journey started, or was that something that started while you were doing your training to be nutritionist? Was that something that you always did?
Yeah, it was. I actually can't untangle it that far. I really can't. But I think how it all started was in America, fair play to them, they have what's called a core curriculum, where you have to take 2 years worth of just any random courses. And I took I just said, okay, fine, I'll take nutrition. And then I also took a philosophy course. Okay, fine, I'll take philosophy. And those two, I remember just like sitting, staring, I was just blown away. So I knew from the core curriculum, I knew, okay, nutrition, I like nutrition. And then the philosophy, they went into yoga. They went into the philosophy of yoga.
Oh, okay, brilliant.
And I was like, this is really interesting. So there was a lady that was teaching the theory of yoga. She wasn't even teaching like a...
You're doing the Bhagavad Gita, that type of stuff.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And Patanjali's 8 limbs and all that. And so I was just kind of fascinated, and I decided to become a yoga teacher then. I think it was from that philosophy class, yeah.
And went into there. And then obviously you go on your yoga journey, but also in the yoga they always talk about the sort of the vegetarian diet and the vegan diet, and the plant-based is always kind of there. Did that sort of make sense to you coming from the nutritional side? Did you like it a lot more because this makes more sense because of...
I did at the time. I was in my 20s and I even went vegan. You know, I was I really had this like love of nature and really didn't want to harm anything. But I did have like kind of an epiphany in my either late 20s or 30s where I was like being vegan, and now I don't want to upset anyone. This was my own journey personally. Number one, I was actually having health issues, and I'm a nutritionist, so I was doing all the things. Like I was having chlorella for B12 and making sure about vitamin D, and I did a ton of research on how to, and I just wasn't getting enough of certain nutrients.
Right.
And so my health deteriorated. But I also had an epiphany where I was like, I love nature so much, but me personally being a vegan is actually resisting nature. Like, I don't want to be part of this world where something has to die for something else to live. But yet, this is nature. Nature's not only lovely, nature's brutal as well. And I started realizing like, wait a minute, what about all these crops that are giving me my pea protein, you know, and all the quinoa that I'm taking from the Peruvians, which I went and volunteered in Peru for 3 months.
Cool.
And I realized that the developed countries are just taking their indigenous crops from them because they're superfoods. Anyway, that's a whole other story.
Right, yeah.
But so I realized all this copious amounts of these grains and stuff that I was eating, and the legumes to make sure I had the good protein, complementary proteins, was actually, it had to be killing things, you know, the monocropping needed for that stuff. There are lots of little critters that, okay, so you can't hug them, you know, and you can't like look into their curious little innocent eyes, but they're living creatures just like me, and that the monocropping needed for that type of living was resisting nature. So again, I do not judge at all, my gosh.
No, but it's very interesting you saying that, where like as a vegan you're protecting the planet and the animals, and but killing a civilization is a bit strange, but it's not really talked about enough. And it's not to put anyone down, because but it's just as a fact, and I think people need to understand that.
I think it's because, and we were talking about this, but I think people just, because again, we don't sit with ourselves, I think everyone's trying to find their identity in something. Tell me who I am, and we identify, and I think as a vegan, I did identify with that. Like, I am the lover of animals, I am the warrior for animals, you know. And when I really sat down and thought about it, I was like, I thought I was doing this wonderful cause, but there's other things I could have been putting my energy in that could have maybe actually really made a difference. And the bottom line is that with this Beyond Burgers and all the fake meat stuff and fake cheese
crazy,
stuff, it's really not good. Like,
it's like it's crazy that people fall for it.
I know.
Like,
and
it really is.
For you to need a factory for your diet is not okay. Like, doesn't feel right at all.
And to put locusts in to give you your protein is a bit, like, it doesn't make sense.
Exactly. And the almonds, like how many bees, you know, you know, in almond farms and that, like when you really start to unravel things. And sometimes this sort of circular economy is helpful. Like, vegans can't drink Guinness, say, because they use some, I used to know all this stuff, but they use some kind of fish bone or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's like, at the same time, too, nature is this great recycler. So if you can use fish bones instead of some factory-made metal or some type of, you know, non-recyclable thing, maybe that's okay. I mean, not if you're killing the fish to get their bones, but you know what I mean? Like, it's not so bad, is it, to use every little bit of an animal?
I think it's just a bit of common sense.
It's just, it's just a better relationship. I also realized I had a very unhealthy relationship with death. Like, you know, I could honor animals and their sacrifice for our life. You can honor them in other ways as well. And you can put your
it's funny because people would rather save a dog than kill a human. It's kind of the way the world is at the minute. It's a bit funny. I just, as you were talking about almonds there, like, this is how things jump into my head. But what I'm finding lately, now this is obviously from TikTok, but what I thought was, you know, you can have like a little bit of peanut butter, and then you realize how many calories is in like a tiny little handful of something, or a small little bit of, like, when I'd eat cheese, I'd like half the block would be gone.
Me too. That's me too.
And then you realize that's 150 grams or 100. Like, that's kind of making me open my eyes. No, it's not stopping me from eating it, but I'm really going, like, how much are we overeating? Like, how many calories are we actually taking in?
And that's the thing. If you always let what would people connected to nature do? Fats have built-in stopping mechanisms for us to eat too much. Like, if you had to go out and, you know, crack your own walnuts or crack your nuts, you'd be so bored after like cracking 10 open or something. You'd be like, that's enough.
Remember
so you'd
them
only
years
really
ago.
been like eating 10, you know, or and stuff like that. And like animal fats as well. I mean, if you've eaten venison or anything like that, they're very lean cuts of meat. There wouldn't be a lot of fat on an animal. So we'd have much less fats then. And then when it comes to dairy and eggs and that, we'd only have them for the breeding season, for the mating seasons, you know, for chickens. My chickens don't lay for like November, December, January, and on the either side, you know what I mean? They don't lay, so we don't have eggs. Same with the milk. If we allow nature to rest, we don't always have access to these things.
So how do you have your 6 eggs a day?
I know,
like
right?
People are telling me.
you eat in the season, you know, you'll be all right.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I would never have thought of eggs being in season.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so it does make sense. I'd never think of it.
Yeah, my chickens definitely don't lay at least for about 3 months out of the year. So no eggs for me during those times.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, yeah, because we just see it every day and we're told to eat.
Mm-hmm. But I do like to shift my diet entirely every season change, really. So just find a new stuff on the menu, you know, it keeps things, because you can kind of eat the same thing for whatever 12 weeks or whatever, and then slowly shift over to something else. And once you start getting bored, you know, and then you're kind of living with the seasons as well.
But would your body not adjust? Like, it was used to having eggs every day, and then you don't get the eggs for the 3 months. Does the body like crave it? Or does it take it time to rest, and does it understand that that's...
You can try it out. You can see how your body responds to it. I think there's a lot of mental stuff with what we think we are supposed to be eating, and, you know, God forbid we don't have our egg, because then we don't have our protein or our this. But especially as adults, our body pools nutrients a lot, especially like the fats and stuff. They'll stay in our body for quite a while. So it could just be a personal choice for me, but I prefer to give it a break and give it the seasons, and I don't feel as though I'm missing out. It takes a lot. I try really hard to take milk out for the same time, and my coffees and stuff, you know, so it is, you know, but your brain wants it more than, but I do agree. I do think given a little bit of a rest is okay, not only for you, but for chickens as well. I mean, how are we able to eat that many, you know, like we're asking a lot of them, and
they need to take, I suppose. It can't be the easiest thing in the world to lay an egg, no, in fairness. So, and I find that interesting, like even with protein, like because, you know, we have protein powders, which we take, but because you always think you're never getting enough protein. And is that possibly because we don't really understand nutrition and how much protein is in natural things? Would that be a part of it, do you think?
Yeah, I think I've gone in through waves of this, because again, you can find studies that support anything. But I think we might overblow the whole protein need. If you're ingesting extra calories and you are resisting gravity in some way, whether it's lifting weights or walking uphill or whatever you're doing to have your strength training or your resistance training, your body will shift those calories into muscle. And yes, protein is helpful, but I'm sometimes with my clients, I'm like, aren't you just trying to live your life? Like, do we need to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, or do we need to, like, you know, I don't know. Again, it's your own journey. If that's something you're passionate about and you want to, you know, optimize absolutely everything, oh my gosh, if that's where your passion is, then do. There's lots of stuff out there. Once you find somebody who you can trust, I wouldn't try to find a whole bunch of people. I would really search for people that you trust, that are experts in that specific, like a bodybuilder or like a, you know, whatever, maximizing for marathons or whatever, and you find someone that you trust, I would like really stick with that person rather than the flea market of information that's out there.
Because it's funny, because like when you talk about, when we do yoga and we do Tai Chi, that's never, like I've never heard ever protein being mentioned. It's always kind of like plant-based foods give you energy, and the same with Tai Chi, like you just eat your rice and your vegetables, but protein is never kind of, you do your yoga practice while you're eating natural things. So it's just funny that it just seems in different worlds there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So in that case, you know, you might even think, are we overblowing the whole need for protein? I mean, even if you don't try that hard, you'd get probably about 10% of your calories surely in protein. So yeah.
I think nowadays, like because we do lots of different things, like from doing marathons, you're going to the gym, and you're doing martial arts, and you're doing this, and you're doing 4 or 5 different disciplines, and everybody's telling you that each discipline needs something else, and you're trying to kind of do it all, and then you're trying to eat, like how can you eat 24 grams of protein at a time when you're doing yoga? And
exactly,
I think you get a little bit confused as to who you are and what you want and
Yeah.
the way you should go about it.
Exactly, and we want to do everything so perfectly, biohacking and all of this. Which again, if that's what is really calling to you, then absolutely. But I've softened big time on that stuff because I used to be into like biohacking big time. But I've softened a lot.
Which
into
is
that.
biohacking. What is that?
So like when you optimize, like, liposomal glutathione to make sure that your immune system is doing
Going
well.
right deep.
Exactly. Your cold showers and your hot cold, moving, and I used to be into a lot of that stuff, and fasted cardio and like autophagy and all this kind of stuff. But I guess I softened because it's humans. It seems like we're obsessed with progress and perfection and like self-improvement always. Whereas I'm kind of at this point in my life maybe where I'm like, sometimes looking back is okay and going deep is okay. We don't have to look up and forward. It doesn't always have to be better and better and better and better.
Yes.
You can actually just flow with whatever nature provides. I mean, people like to say that we're living longer than the ancestors did, and I think it's a more nuanced conversation than people think, because the average lifespan is calculated based on how many children would survive childbirth. So if you actually look, I mean, Plato lived till his 80s, and he's from 400 BC. Galileo lived to his 80s. So it's like once you survive childbirth and the infections of childhood, and if you didn't get an acute, so like we might be okay if we don't get that protein in, that 24 grams of protein. Do you know what I mean? Like they were doing, like their capacity for living a long life was there. Obviously their hygiene and all those things, acute injury, infections and childbirth, those were really poor, and a lot of people would die, but their capacity for living long lives was very similar to ours.
Bar war or infection, things
that's
like that.
Exactly. Infection, acute injury, and childbirth.
Yeah,
basically.
and possibly it's because we're kind of like, unless you're being a sports person, you're rugby, you need it for certain reasons. But a lot of it is just because we want to look good.
Yeah.
I think you go to the gym because it looks good when you have, fat and you have good muscles. It kind of looks cool. And
it looks good to our psyche that has decided that that's what looks good. That's what's collectively accepted as looking good. I mean, you can see the paintings in like the Renaissance and stuff where a little bit of hips, a little bit of belly was not so bad on a woman.
Like even you look back at the yogis, like on influencers now, all the guys that do the yoga are all ripped, and when I teach a class, people look at me and go, like, I've seen yoga teachers and you're not a yoga teacher because you're not ripped.
Oh, stop.
But then you look at the yogis and like none of them were ripped. None of them were ripped at all. They were just dudes, just did stuff. And I find the only thing I find with yoga is I love yoga, but I'm a kind of a realist. And I'm like, well, if you're a yogi and you sit on a rock, you don't have a family, you don't have anything, and all you spend is 40 years doing whatever you want. And then we're trying to do that in a 1 hour class and get really frustrated that we can't meditate and we can't touch our toe. We can't, it's false. We're not teaching yoga naturally to people, to people who are living normal lives.
Exactly. And this would be a lifelong thing. It wouldn't be like, 200 hours, quickly go to India or quickly go wherever.
Yeah.
And now I'm a yogi, and and also this idea of we're trying to get to enlightenment. Like there's this goal and we're trying to get there and stuff. Whereas it's life, it's an actual life. And like you say, studying in India, it is from birth. It's just a way of life. It's not a thing we're trying to do. It's not, just exactly like you said, we're trying to achieve this thing in this hour class.
It's like hot yoga is 35 degrees, but that's because it's 35 degrees in India.
Yeah.
It's not, they didn't make it.
Exactly.
to be, not there's anything wrong with it for people that do hot yoga, because I've done it myself, but there's understanding the reasonings behind it.
Exactly, just being more conscious in everything you're doing. It's okay to do any of the stuff. Just know why you're doing it, or just...
Yeah, and I think the important thing as well is when we talk about, like, you do yoga, you do qigong, I do martial arts, qigong, yoga. Like, the more that you learn, like, you start to... When I did something else, or I studied a different style of martial art, I realised, I understand what I'm doing here now. Like you, and when you do qigong, you can understand a little bit more of what yoga's doing.
Yes.
And vice versa. So the more that you're learning, like sometimes you only have one view, but now you go, oh, I get that. It's just a different way of, so it makes your yoga even better because you have another way of looking at it.
Exactly.
So I think that interconnectedness between all of them, I think everyone, whoever, if you're doing yoga, go and do Tai Chi, go and do qigong, try everything.
Find different perspectives.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even some of it is a bit synchronistic as well. Like you can understand the overlap between qigong and yoga and that, but sometimes it'll come from the completely strange and not interconnected subjects, you know, to where you're kind of like, am I just a meaning making machine here as a human, or are there beautiful synchronicities going on where like it's almost like that seed was planted whatever 4 years ago in order to flourish at this moment that I'm into this now.
Yes.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if you have a journal or anything and you read back on the journal entries that you had, sometimes the thing that you read is like the exact thing that you need to hear right now. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a strange, it's a weird thing, but just exactly like you say, they're all interconnected and they can give you different perspectives to look at the same thing, and it just makes it more rich.
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit like reading a book. You can read a book once, but you read it again and you read it completely, like you see things you never saw before.
Exactly.
I think possibly because you've learned more and you've matured, or your brain is somewhere in a different position to what it was that you skipped.
Yeah.
Or that didn't make any sense to you.
I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, there was no relevance. And I find that learning different stuff, whatever it is, just changes your perspective on whatever you're doing.
And when things click from all those different angles, this triangulation or whatever,
Yeah.
it's so much richer,
And then your job then is to try and take all of that and to take that one person that walks in the door that doesn't know anything about anything and try to teach it as natural and as easy as possible from their point of view.
Yeah.
Which is, that's a whole different ballgame.
It is, that's guru status,
Yeah, because you've got all this stuff in your head and you want to throw it at them and you're going, no.
I know, and I have a hard time with that,
So you're just trying to figure out which is left foot and right foot first. And we'll work with that.
Meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
And
I think that's a hard thing for yoga. I see it quite a lot. Yoga teachers are, look at me.
I know.
And follow me.
Right.
And people just going, what are you even doing?
Exactly. Huge.
That makes no sense.
Parts of that, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think in fairness to them too, sometimes it's an imposter syndrome or something where they think like, oh, I have to perform, I have to be so good, you know, I have to say the Sanskrit words, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
I think a lot of it, from what I find from teaching, even with yoga teachers, is they're fantastic. I've taught people who I'd never be at the level of yoga that they're at. They're just amazing. But they don't know how to break it down.
Right.
When you get to a certain level, and I see it in martial arts, you get up to a certain level, it's very hard to come back down to that very first level of someone coming in.
You can't remember the first steps of your journey.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard part, because you're up here doing handstands and headstands, but you can't tell people how to put the left foot back or right foot back. And I think a lot of it is lost. We get up here and we lose the ability to do that.
That's so true. And to find someone who can actually have all their wisdom and not need to have anybody admire them for it, and just start wherever the person is.
I think that in itself. So what I like to do with mine is I teach from the very beginning. I like to stay at the basics, because then I can push them and say, look, you know loads of basics. So if you go to that other person now, you'll have a much better understanding of what they're doing, and they'll bring you on this amazing journey. But some people need that little foundation of just to get the basics right and just to feel a little bit confident. And then it's almost like you're germinating them. You're putting the seeds in, you're watering them. As soon as they sprout, you can replant them with someone else. And I think a lot of people need that. Whereas a lot of instructors can't germinate people.
Yeah.
They just know how to make them grow tall, where that's a niche there for
I think you're right, and I don't think the yoga teacher trainings do any help with that. I mean, I remember my first yoga class after my wonderful training, and I felt so wonderful, and I was like, okay, let's take a comfortable seated position, and nobody was comfortable in a seated position.
Yeah.
So I had to be like, pivot, you know, let's lay down, or let's do this. And that's the thing is, and that's the only way to do that, is to spend some time, just with your students, and just like how does it feel right now, and how does this feel, and there's no, because the yoga teacher trainings are very like aesthetically taught. It seems like the foot faces short edge of mat, back heel is aligned with front, arch of the foot. It's all very aesthetic, whereas if you find a yoga teaching style that says this is the feeling we're going for, find yourself there somehow, and then you're getting people to actually feel what they're feeling in the pose rather than doing a
It's
pose.
also how you explain it to them as well.
True, exactly.
You know, we're gonna go in that direction. Doesn't mean you're gonna get there.
Right,
but
exactly.
Just the direction we're going.
Right.
Just give it a go.
Yeah, and I think they could benefit off of having those types of yoga. Maybe they're out there, and I just don't know about them.
Yeah, it's hard to find them because like when you have your yoga classes and your plans, and you go in.
Right. Nope. Yeah.
2 minutes in, that plan's gone out the window.
Gone. Yeah, exactly.
Because you're in a different place. But I suppose that's all part of life and the learning curve of
exactly.
being able to. And some people just can't get outside that structure.
Exactly.
That's all they know.
And there are yogis for them as well, because then they can teach the good yogis or whatever, you know, the people that can touch their...
Yeah, yoga, it's a funny one, because the word yoga is probably its biggest downfall.
Maybe.
Because everyone has their own ideas of what yoga is. They're tree huggers, they're...
Yeah, it's
like,
true.
I want to be very flexible, so I'll do yoga. And I'm like, well, no, you don't do hatha yoga, because you're going to build strength.
Yeah.
You know, do yin yoga.
Right.
But you can't do yin yoga all the time because you wouldn't be able to walk.
Exactly.
Your muscles
you
would
need
be...
the sukha and the dukkha. Yeah, exactly.
It's just trying to explain all that to people.
Yeah.
But it's been marketed as, come to my class because I do this, and mine's better than your class. Cause
I know.
Just like it's a bit wrong when it's all the same stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Just done slightly differently.
Right.
But just with your qigong journey, how do you find the qigong? I'm assuming as a yoga teacher and a qigong teacher that you more than likely combine them together from what I'm talking. And how do you find the qigong helps your yoga or vice versa?
Yeah, so qigong, just in case if people don't understand what qigong is, it's a discipline of like qi, which is kind of this, it's like a mind-body energy. How would you explain it? But it's also like a connection to the source energy.
Yeah. I suppose for me it's like a moving form of yoga, because in yoga it talks about prana, which is energy, but I find the Chinese systems really cultivated the qi or the energy.
Yeah.
And you can really feel it.
Exactly. Yeah, so qigong would be the cultivation of the skill of working with energy, basically, in a moving form, I guess is the way I would describe qigong. But anyways, what your question, absolutely, I find that when I start classes off with that work with qi, the qigong practice, I don't know, something magical always happens. People connect on such a different level, whatever the heck it is. I mean, it could be that we are putting our bodies in these positions that ancient humans were putting their bodies in as well. They obviously knew things, you know. And whatever it is, people connect on such a deeper, more intuitive level to their own body and, yeah, to something special, something more. So I love starting a yoga class with, I call it like a fusion of qigong and yoga, where I will start most of my classes with some kind of energy work, some of the forms of qigong, that ancient practice, and then move into the yoga, and then it feels like the yoga poses become enchanted, or and you feel like this extra charge to your yoga practice when you start off with a little bit of that,
and it brings it to life.
Yes, in a different way, where it's not just like I'm a warrior. It's like, no, I'm feeling into these postures.
Yeah, and it's a bit like Tai Chi as well, because like obviously Tai Chi is a martial art, but it's really it's internally, it's like qigong. It's the same thing as qigong, but the moves are obviously more martial. And you could use it for that, but people don't like hearing that. But it is.
Oh yeah, and imagine if the modern day warriors could be connected to energy. Imagine if they
it's
could.
like even with yoga, people don't like to talk about war and violence, but like the Bhagavad Gita takes place on a battlefield.
On a battlefield, yeah. Exactly.
Warrior 1 and Warrior 2, so all the soldiers would have done yoga as part of the limbering and strengthening exercises. So again, the interconnectedness, whether you don't want to go that route, everything, you have to see everything for its at the whole.
Exactly. And I think we touched on it earlier, is this obsession with transcendence and the light and the enlightenment and the salvation and meanwhile, if you look at a lot of Hinduism and even Buddhism and Taoism, there are some really distorted image, the dakinis and the Kali, there are some frightening
even
images.
If you look at the picture of Shiva.
Yeah.
Shiva's always standing
on the head of your man.
Man, yeah.
Absolutely, no. And we kind of left those out, and we took all the light off of it, and we didn't realize that, like, no, it's actually, there's dark and there's light, and we don't have to transcend one of them.
No,
we can just change. We can just develop a relationship.
It's the yin and yang. It's the
the
destroyer of worlds, but they rebuild it at the same time.
And then
so
the rebirth,
there's a constant.
exactly.
So it's a constant.
Yeah.
But what I do find is, people who do like yoga protect. So this is going to go back to sort of the nutrition, because this is where my head works.
Okay.
Like when we get into like the strength, when someone's doing, like if you do some of the forms in yoga, when you get to like stand on your head and jump through, like the core strength and the strength in the body is inhuman.
Yeah.
In a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I know people are trying to replicate that in the gyms. Like it's a different, like a bench press is a completely different thing to holding your body up and pushing your legs through in midair and then bringing back up into a handstand. That's a whole different strength.
It is. And it is almost a mental strength as well as all the physical strength that goes with that, and a certain, I guess, like a deeper connection with your body as well, to get your body to do those types of things. Like when if you've ever tried to do some of them, even the simple arm balances and stuff, the first time you try to do it, you're like, no, there's no way that a human could do this. And then somehow, whatever the heck it is, as you build your strength, and maybe your mental strength as well, maybe that does have something to do with
Absolutely. That crow pose, like trying to do crow pose is just mental. And then one day you get it.
Yeah, and then it just feels like, and then you have the yin and the yang, the balance of surrender and control.
And then you try to, then you don't, so I've done it and I don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And then you go to do it again and you can't do it.
Right, yeah.
Because it's amazing. And then like even with the Tai Chi, like and the qigong, like the amount of power and strength that people, from the internal side and then can push through is phenomenal.
It is.
And like we talked about earlier with the protein, like there was never any mention of you have to take protein to get strong to do this. Like this is coming from internal and bone alignment and all these different things. Yeah. So like when we're in the gym, I know everyone's taking proteins, but for people, how to make it, we don't need them to make you big and bulky and strong. Like, so I suppose what I'm talking about is probably the types of protein. Like we talked about eggs and chicken and things like that, but we're constantly pushing protein into us of all kinds because it's in everything now.
Exactly.
But like when you do Tai Chi and stuff, you realize in yoga that we never talk about the protein. So we're looking at the protein powders and the protein that's in everything. Like, is it good protein?
Well, exactly. And yeah, hopefully
and do we need it? Like,
exactly. Yeah. So hopefully from some of the previous stuff that I've said, I'd be a huge proponent of keeping things natural, keeping things connected to the earth. I think our nutrition should be our connection to earth. And so when it comes to all these different types of proteins, and really anything actually that's on the shelves right now, do some due diligence in terms of find out have a look at the back, always be looking at the nutrient profile of what you're eating. And if it seems like there's way too many chemicals, I mean, the long-term effects of these chemicals, I mean, it's not good. We have horrific, rises in number of chronic diseases and hormonal imbalances and stuff as people age, and that saying of the youth is wasted on the young, right? You wish you could kind of go to your prior self and just say, look at number one, you wouldn't need that much protein. You don't need that much protein. You're being marketed to, and you should be getting it from natural sources.
So in actual fact, a lot of it is poison that you're putting in
it's
with all the
toxic
bits
stuff.
and pieces.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Like a lot of the stuff. So yeah, mostly with protein powder, because again, it's so popular. And whenever something gets popular, it needs to become mass produced. And how do we, cut corners on cost and all that stuff? So you can be thinking that, this is getting me bigger muscles, but you're taking poisons daily, if you look at it that way. And it's unnecessary. It just is unnecessary.
And it's probably, for now, it's a now thing for the next 2 years, but like 10 years down the road,
They come at a cost. Yeah, absolutely.
Like I know, is it right? Too much protein has something with the nitrogen that it produces affect the kidneys or the liver?
It can, yeah. Especially depending on your own genetic profile as well, what you're working with. But the extra ammonia in your body is because of protein, and also it goes through different channels. It gets processed in different ways than glucose. So no, you're absolutely right.
So we're making ourselves sick long term.
Exactly.
In essence, and for a lot of cases.
Exactly, and that's just with too much protein, and then add to that all these crazy additives in these protein powders. That's worse again, you know.
And we talked about the monsters and the bits and pieces and the energy drinks and all the stuff that goes on top of that.
Yeah, it really is heartbreaking. It really, really is, because this is all. It's directly affecting the way your heart works, you know, the way that your vital organs work. And again, it is just not needed. If you are young, you do not need an energy drink. You have beautifully, like, copious amounts of energy, you know, as a young person. You don't need those energy drinks. And I would argue that even if you're very sporty and that, you know, there's other ways to get your carbohydrate intake.
Oh, absolutely. And I always say, like, I mean, you know, all these Lucasade sports, unless you're running for an hour and a half or more than an hour and stuff, like, you should be taking them, because they don't really serve the purpose.
Exactly. And there's other ways to make sure your electrolyte balance is good, and to make sure that you're getting enough calories to support a young metabolism, especially one that is sporty. So obviously if it's beyond the scope of our little talk today, but this is a really important thing that should be talked about, because especially young people are in these formative years where a lot of their future health kind of rides on what they're doing, you know, to their bodies right now.
And it's funny, because I know we always talk about living in the moment as a yogi, and we should live in the moment and we just stretch, but there's times when if you're just living in the moment, taking in loads, if you're an alcoholic and you're living in the moment, drinking loads of drink, like, there has to be a point at some stage in the future it's going to affect you. And the same probably with the proteins and the bad stuff, bad food choices that we make. We're enjoying it now, but 5 years down the road, there has to be some sort of bigger picture.
Exactly. But then honestly, the way it all goes to, for me, it always comes back to a soul connection. Because why are these young lads, why do they need to look a certain way, or why can we not find some deeper connection to ourselves where we don't need to look like somebody or have a certain car or have a, do you know what I mean? And it happens. I see a lot of people my age, a lot of adults that have the same thing. It feels to me like there's a soulfulness missing that we are trying to compensate for with the way we look, what we wear, and again, this is probably beyond the scope of this little conversation, but for me, and that's why I hardly do nutrition anymore. I work more in terms of life coaching and more soul development, because I think we're trying to find our soul in external things, and we'd find it if we came inwards and connected with ourselves on that deeper level.
And then when you look at your journey in a whole, like, I mean, you've got the food that feeds you, you've got the yoga that makes you strong and flexible, you've got the qigong that works your internal energies and your internal organs. So if you look at it, it's like a real natural preventative side, which people have been doing for thousands of years, and to keep themselves healthy without reaching to the medicine cabinet.
Exactly. We were doing it great, and
you know, now obviously we're going to need antibiotics for certain things. Like, you know, the advancements in technology and medicine is massive. Like, we can have operations and not feel it and stuff.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be dichotomous. It can't be like, oh, I'm team ancients and I'm team technology. That's not the way it has to be at all. We can use technology for...
It's just finding that balance between how we can work the two of them together.
Exactly, a new synthesis. And technology is just going so fast forward that I think we do need to look a little bit backwards sometimes, just to say, okay, you know, maybe the ancients did know things that we take for granted now or don't even connect to now because of technology, because we have all these distractions of technology and stuff. But again, I'm not saying we have to do away with hospitals.
No, absolutely not. There's a place for everything. There's plenty of room for it all to work.
Exactly.
I know there are some clinics in Switzerland where they have the scientific side and the medical side, and they have the alternative side, and they work. They send from one to the other, and they help. Which is, I mean, if you do acupuncture, you have to go and work in a hospital in China.
Right.
As part of it, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just not done so much here.
No.
And maybe, I'm not sure if it does in America or South Africa, but
yeah, I've been away for so long. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it anyways. Typically, yeah.
But we can find the balance. The balance is there. It's just trying to...
Yeah, it is, and I don't know who those people are. I don't know who's leading that, you know.
Yeah.
I really don't, but I would love to play a part in it. Anyways, I'm drawn to kind of looking a bit back and seeing the cognitive modes that maybe we've forgotten, and connections to Earth and stuff like that perhaps we've forgotten. I like to play that. That's where my passion lies.
Absolutely, yeah,
you know?
and it's just it's giving back to the world and
Yeah.
trying to nurture people into... I suppose I don't even know the words to say it without being condescending. Trying to do the right thing, because who knows what's the right thing is. But
well, exactly. Yeah, I think the right thing is in us. It's just that we have to cultivate that soul, that intuition, and each of us have our own kind of calling and connection to.
I suppose also what you're trying to do is just prolong this vessel. You're just trying to keep us where we are at the minute for as long as we can, so that we can learn new stuff and do more stuff. And
it is. It's like the ultimate FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. Like we just want to live forever, and
pretty much.
And we always have it. Like I mean, sure, Taoism and qigong, they had their elixirs and their longevity, and stuff like that. So we have wanted to live longer as humans, and that's a natural thing. But I do think we have a poor relationship with getting sick and death and that.
Yeah.
We're trying desperately to thwart it.
And I suppose a lot of it has to come down to what we talked earlier is food. A lot of it plays a huge part in it.
Yeah.
Well, obviously there's drugs and other bits and factors, but you know, our food choices can be a little bit, and we're all guilty of it.
Oh, stop. Like I say, we have the best scientific minds working on how to make food, you know, totally tempting and not being able to stop eating it.
And it's Christmas.
We're powerless.
It's coming to Christmas, and it's tough. It's a tough time.
It's really tough.
It's a tough time.
It's really tough, yeah.
But Tosca, that was an amazing talk. We'd love to have you back, because we could go on for 3 hours. We're only just tipping the iceberg. So, but hopefully people will take something from that, especially any young guys that are watching, maybe about protein or about nutrition. And for anyone that's watching, about nutrition, and just, I suppose, just give it a go and don't take anything to heart. Do your own research, try something, and if it doesn't work for you, move on and do something else.
Be curious, and especially about that, what you put into your body. Like, be so curious, and like I say, my bias would be to try desperately to keep it as natural and as part of your environment and the season and stuff as possible.
That's perfect. And do you have a website or anything that people can contact you on? Or we can put links into this as well.
Sure, that's great. Well. I focus more on the kind of archetypal psychology and the mythology and stuff nowadays, because I really think there's magic there and there's medicine there. But wildbeing.life is where I'm at right now.
Brilliant.
I'm just starting it, so if you don't see anything yet, keep
so people just get involved and get in and just find a tribe and try something new. And
exactly, and I am a life coach. So if anybody feels like they want to chat to someone, or I'd love to chat to someone about this.
So best of luck, hopefully, and thanks very much for joining us, Tosca. Really enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.